Welcome back, guys. Lonestar Patriot here. Thanks for joining me. So to continue on our short series on Glock upgrades, today I'm going to be installing some aftermarket sights. The sights that I'll be installing are the Ameriglo GL-614 CAP sights. Now CAP stands for Combative Application Pistol, and it's widely recognized that the factory sights that come on Glock models are typically discarded. They're a polymer sight, they're not rugged, so they don't withstand much abuse. So we'll head over to the bench and get started installing the sights, so stay tuned. Alright guys, so we'll go and get started. Of course, first thing we'll need are in fact our sights. Now I'm going to be using the Ameriglo. It's a GL-614 CAP sight. As you can see, this will fit other Glock models, but in this case I'll be installing it on a Glock 19. For the front sight, I prefer to use a 3/16 precision nut driver. Now this is made by Weehaw, and I prefer this one much more than the Glock sight tool, and it's relatively the same cost. Also for the front sight, I'll be using a medium thread locker. This is a blue thread locker. It's model 243 by Loctite. And then for the rear sights, I'll be using a Maryland Gunworks Sight Pro pusher tool. Now this tool is relatively expensive. However, I find that if you're changing sights on a fairly frequent basis, especially sights on other manufacturers, this will certainly pay for itself pretty quickly. Now with Glocks, you can use nylon punches, which can be an inexpensive route to go. However, if you have one of these, it's a great tool to have. Now I'll leave links in the description box below to all these items that I'm using, but let's go ahead and field strip the firearm and we'll get started. Alright guys, so we'll go and get started. We'll start with the front sight first. So we'll take our 3/16 precision nut driver and loosen the screw on the factory sight. And then I find just a regular tapered punch works well just to knock the front sight out. And we'll set these aside. Now this is a relatively new firearm. However, I'd still recommend cleaning out the front sight as much as possible just to remove any dirt and debris. So I'll use a little bit of rubbing alcohol to clean that out. And then we'll let that dry and start installing our new sight. Alright guys, so this is a little bit difficult to do on camera, but the first thing I like to do is to insert the screw just to get it started into the slide, and then put pressure with my finger and rotate it to the side here. We'll apply a little bit of blue Loctite. And then bring in our front sight and align it with the screw, push it through the slide, and then rotate it back over. And then taking our precision nut driver and tightening that down. And you don't want to get it too tight at this point. We just want to get it snug enough, of course, to seat the sight, and then we'll come back and check the alignment with some calipers here in just a second. All right, so to check our alignment on the front sight, we'll take a pair of calipers here and just measure to be sure that the sight is in fact parallel from the sight to the edge of the slide. So we'll measure first at the front. And that number reads roughly or 0.430. We'll check it again at the rear. And that reads 0.427.5. So we're roughly 2.5 thousandths off, which is pretty close. We'll check it one more time for accuracy, again at the front. We get 0.431.5. And then again at the rear. So we get 0.433.5. So there we're about 2 thousandths off. So we're in pretty good shape. So now what we'll do is we'll work on removing the rear sight. So to get started replacing our rear sight, of course we have our rear sight from Ameriglo. We also have the MGW Sight Pro tool that I referenced earlier. Now, I won't go into much detail on the Sight Pro tool itself in terms of use, but MGW does have a very good instructional video on how to use the tool, and the instructions that come with the Sight Pro tool are also very thorough. But to get started, we'll loosen up the slide support screws as well as the screws on the upper main body. And then down here for the slide shoe. Now this slide shoe is for the Glock itself. So once all that's loosened up, we can insert the slide into the tool. And I'm not sure if this is visible, but you want to be sure that your rear sight is concentric with the pusher itself. So you want to be sure this is concentric with the sight and vice versa. So you can kind of see there that the sight is centered. So what we'll do next is we'll lock down the slide shoe and then bring the main body down and tighten that to the slide. And again, just get this snug. And then finally, we'll bring the slide support on each side, tighten those down. So now that everything is secure, we'll flip the tool over and we're going to work from the left side to the right side in terms of pushing the sight out. So it's engaging the sight now, and then we'll continue to turn to push the sight out. You can see there that we're about halfway out. All right, now we'll loosen the tool and we can easily pull the rear side out and start installing the new one. All right, so now with the factory sight removed, we want to do, again, a similar process we did on the front sight. We want to remove any dirt and debris from the dovetail on the rear. with, again, rubbing alcohol, and we'll use a Q-tip. All right, while that's flashing off, we're going to take our rear sight, and as you can see there, that this has a photoluminescent horizontal green line on the rear of the sight. Of course, that's going to face the shooter. So just to test fit this, we're going to work in the opposite direction of how we remove the sight. So in this case, we'll come in from the left and test fit the rear sight into the dovetail, and it looks like it fits well. So you should typically see the sight go into the dovetail slot about halfway in. Now in some cases you might have to take the bottom of the actual sight to, say, a water stone, or use some sandpaper on a glass plate, but in this case, most of the time I find that these fit very well from the factory. So this is in good shape. We'll go ahead and insert the slide back into the tool and get started. So we'll remove the sight for now, bring back our tool. And we'll go ahead and bring the slide through the tool. And again, we'll start our rear sight into the dovetail. And then be sure we raise this upper body high enough to slide the slide, again, concentric with the tool, and lock that down. Now we'll bring our main body down to the top of the slide. Go ahead and tighten that down. And then tighten our slide supports. And just to note, I am doing this, of course, with both hands. However, it does have these notches here in the Sight Pro tool. You can hopefully see those, to where you can actually mount this in a vise, and that way you've got a two-handed operation instead of having to hold the tool with one hand and operate with the other like I'm doing. So you can see here that the sight is mounted, the tool is in the right location. Again, concentric with the tool. And then now all we need to do is, again, working from the opposite direction as our removal, we'll install the sight going from right to left. And you can see this is where it has a little bit of difficulty installing it. However, again, if you mounted it in the vise, this would make it a lot easier. So what we'll do is we'll get the rear sight as close as we can visually, and then we'll take it out and throw some calipers on it and check it that way as well. So I think that's a pretty good shape right now, so we'll remove it and double check it visually and see how we look. All right, guys, so just to wrap up the installation of the rear sight, I did make a few minor adjustments with the sight tool to make sure that the sight itself was concentric with the slide. Again, just to double check with the calipers to be sure that it was centered. Again, measuring from the edge of the slide to the edge of the sight and vice versa. That's one of the nice things about the sight tool, is that you can make pretty fine incremental adjustments. So I'll take this with me to the next range trip, see what kind of groups I get out of these sights right now with the sight alignment. If there's anything that's off, I'll make those adjustments to the tool and then recheck. So let's set these aside and go ahead and reassemble the gun. And then just to give you a picture of what the sights look like, hopefully this comes across on camera. You can see that. So the installation is done. Let's wrap it up. All right, guys, so just to wrap up the installation of the Ameriglo CAP sights. Again, CAP stands for Combative Application Pistol, and these were designed by Dave Spalding of Handgun Combatives. So we have Dave's reputation behind these sights, and I like these sights quite a bit. Now, there are other similar sights to this that Ameriglo makes that you might like as well. This does have a square front sight. Now, this is the green photoluminescent around the green tritium vial. They do make a orange photoluminescent with a green tritium vial as well, and a orange photoluminescent rear. But this is just the combination that I prefer. But again, they have other sights on their site that might be suitable to you. Now, in terms of price, these retail for $90. Typically, you can find these elsewhere ranging from $70 to $80 and sometimes less. So I think it's a great sight for the money, especially if these are night sights, of course, as well as a combat sight. So it has a nice sight picture for quick target acquisition, which I do like, especially in a self-defense scenario. So I definitely recommend these sights, and I look forward to putting these to the test. So thanks for joining me, and I hope you subscribe, and we'll see you next time. That I had equal distance from the edge of the slide. That's the sight, not the slide. Which CAP stands for Combative Application, what is it? Pistol? Series of Glock. I'm going to be my sight align, as well as the IDOT sight, which is similar to these 14 CAP sight. Now, cats, you got any cats? Hey, you got those cats? Hey, throw me some cats so I can install them. Give me those cats.